We need to analyse the data so that we can get, if we get 2 sets of data or 3 sets of data, we can then be able to like compare them and contrast them and work out what's better, etc., whatever we're trying to look at, okay? And so we do different sorts of measurements to do that. One of the things we do is find the measures of centre, okay? So measures of centre means like the middle. We're trying to find the middle of the data. Can anyone tell me what mean, mode, and the median? Now, the measures of centre are all also called averages. So we need to remember, and I get stuck with this as well, so just be aware of it. Pull me up on it if I say the wrong word, okay? All of these things are called averages. Even though in science we use the word average to mean the mean, okay? But actually the mode and the median are also averages. And the reason why I'm bringing your attention to that is often in a test they might say, what's the best average to use? And people straight away go, oh, it says average, we should use the mean, when actually the answer is the median or the mode. Okay, so averages is the overall word for mean, mode, and median. It's actually a whole heap of others as well, but they're the ones we look at because there's different types of means as well. There's a harmonic mean and there's heaps. There's all these different types, okay? But these are the 3 we look at, all right? So we are going to start off looking at, and these, I know this is like a repeat of things you've learnt before, but we just have to make sure everyone's on the same page. Okay? So it shouldn't be a hard lesson. All right, so the first one is the mode. What does the mode mean? Most common, most frequently occurring score. Okay, most frequently occurring score. So, for example, and then within that, can we have more than one mode? Yeah, okay. And usually once you get to more than 2, it's not really that useful. Okay, so we usually have bimodal, okay? Bimodal means there are 2 modes. So for example, if I had a set of numbers, e.g. 2, 3, 3, 5, 6, 6, 8, okay, the mode is what? 3 and 6. Now beware, you don't like add them together or anything like that. There are 2 modes. Okay, so there can be 2 modes. What about if I had something like this? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's no mode, okay? So if all of the numbers occur the same number of times, then there's no mode. It also is the same if it's like, if it says like 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4. Both of these are, no, it's not. It's no mode because the whole point of mode is to find a point of difference. Even though there's only 6 digits there, it's not really, there's no difference in it, okay, because they're all exactly the same. So no mode means all numbers or all scores is the word we're using, okay, means all the scores occur the same number of times. Okay, so we're trying to find the middle. Now, sometimes the mode isn't the middle. Okay, so just to be aware of that, like even in that one, really, the 3s and the 6s aren't really the middle. So mode isn't always the best measure of centre. It's just one of them. But if it asks you for the best one, you have to look at the story and look at the data to work out if it is. So if your mode's like right skewed off on one side, you're probably like, well, that's probably not the best measure of centre. Okay? Any questions about the mode? Pretty easy? Now, you might be able to have to find the mode from a frequency table and you're just looking for the highest number in the frequency side. However, you do need to know, so I'll just give you a really quick example. If you had a table like this, I'll give you 2 examples. Frequency score is usually used as an X, and if we said 3, 4, 5, 6, 2, 0, 8, 4, the modal score, that's how it might say. It might say, what's the modal score? You need to know that they're saying, what is the mode? It's a different way of asking it. What's the modal score? Is it 8? It's 5, okay? Now, just to be aware that the mode is, this is the highest frequency, but what that's actually saying is there are 8 5s. And where people get lost in a table is that they assume that that number is the mode, but it's actually the score is the mode. The frequency is just saying how often it is, because this table is actually just saying I've got a list of numbers. 3's there twice, 4's not there, 5's there 8 times, and 6 is there 4 times. That's what it's saying. That's what that table says. So to be aware of that. Now, the other thing it might say is something like this. Might say the modal group. Okay, so it's not asking you specifically for the mode, it's asking you for the modal group or the modal interval. This is sometimes called a class interval. What do you think is the answer for this one? 20 to 29. You don't have to write any other answer other than the group which it's in is 20 to 29. Everyone okay with that? So modes are a pretty easy question. Where we usually trick you is with tables and with the words. So if you say mode or modal, you're looking for the mode. If it asks for the group, you give the group. If it asks for a score, give the score. You never give the frequency though. That just helps you find the answer. It's not the answer. All right? Okay, moving on. Mean. Now, I have every class for like, I don't know how many years, I've asked like, what's an actual definition of the mean without telling me what it actually is. I don't know it. If anyone can think of what a definition of the mean is, I'd be happy to know if you can think about it. But our definition of the mean is always just actually how you calculate it. Do you know what I mean? So tell me what you think, what's the mean? Good, the sum of the scores divided by the number of scores, okay? But I can't think of any other way of describing it. That just seems to be how we describe it. So it's just an interesting thing. All right, so the mean is the sum of the scores. What's the word sum mean? Added them all, the adding of all of them together. The sum of the scores divided by the number of scores. And we write this in a really interesting way. We write like this. The symbol for mean is an X with a big line across the top, and you need to know these symbols, okay? And then we say equals the sum of the scores, and the summation sign looks a bit like this. It's like a big sort of E. So the sum of the scores, which are X, it's called a summation symbol. It means sum. Means sum of. This means scores. This means the mean. So the mean equals the sum of the scores divided by the number of scores. So you need to know those symbols. So it's X dash equals summation sign of the scores over the number of scores. No, maybe. Summation might be. Okay, but that summation we use in other things as well. All right, so for example, if we say 5 plus 6 plus 7 plus 10 plus 13. Oh, sorry, not plus. Those should be our set of numbers. Sorry if you've written plus already. That's okay. That'll be part of our working out. We say 5, 6, 7, 10, and 13. Sorry, can we change that 3 to a 2 just to make it easier for us? 5, 6, 7, 10, 12. We just don't have to use a calculator. Sorry. All right, if I got given those numbers, how would I find the mean? Good, so I'm going to add them all together. So I'm going to go the mean equals 5 plus 6 plus 7 plus 10 plus 12, which equals? Divided by 5, which equals? 8. That's all right. I couldn't add them up for some reason in my head. 20, 29. It is 40, so that's fine. So it's 40 divided by 5, and so our mean is 8. Okay? Does that appear to be about right? How do I know if I got the answer of 18, how would I know it was wrong? Because it's outside our top number, okay? So it's always going to be less than that. Now, what if instead of this, I actually had, what if I had this number? What if I said 5, 6, 7, 100, actually let's go 12 and 100. What's going to happen to my mean? It's going to go up. Is it going to go up by a lot or by a little? It's going to go up by a lot, okay? So the mean is really, really highly influenced by what's called an outlier. So if you have a number which is really high in your set of scores, your mean is going to get skyrocket as we go, okay? So if we look at this, what have we got? 12, 19. So we got 130. This time I got 130 divided by 5. And so our mean is going to be 26. So because we changed that one number, our mean really jumps up high. So this is where when we ask you a question about what the best measure of centre is, sometimes if there's an outlier, the mean's not the best measure of centre because really 26 is nowhere near the middle of those numbers. It's getting closer to the outlier. Right? Okay. Now, we need to be able to find the mean from different things. So that's finding the mean. That's finding the mean from a set of numbers. However, more likely, we're going to collect up a whole heap of data and put that data into a table. And so we need to be able to find the mean from a table with normal numbers, and we need to find the mean from a table with group data. So we've got two different ways of doing that. So we're still finding the mean. This time we're saying from a frequency table, which is what we often put our notes into. Smaller again, yeah. So from a frequency table to find the mean. So for example, I'm just going to use simple numbers to start with. Make sure you leave some space on the right. Again, we've got the scores as X. We've got frequency here. And so we might have 3, 4, and 5. And the frequency is 11, 20, and 6. So we're saying we've got 11 3s, 20 4s, 6 5s, right? What do I have to find the mean? I have to know the sum of the scores and the number of scores. So how could I find the number of scores? If I add up, not the X column, if I add up the F column, it's going to give me the number of scores. So the number of scores equals 37. That's what that's going to tell me there. So I've already got the bottom of my fraction ready to go if I just add up those. Can everyone see that? Sorry, it's not 137, 37, just 37. All right, computer's not liking me today. Just 37. Everyone good with that? Sean. All right, so if we then look at how do we find the sum of the scores? How do we add all the scores together? So I've got to add 11 3s, 20 4s, and 6 5s together. What do I have to do to do that? if I do the X column times by the F column, I'm going to find the sum of each of the rows and then add them together. So I'm going to go 33, 80, and 30. And so my sum of the scores, so this bit, the sum of the scores equals 143. Everyone see that? All right, so anytime you get given a frequency table, that's where we end up at. So to find the mean, all I do is divide one by the other. 143 divided by 37. And so the mean is 5.3. We've got our answer there. Any questions about that? What's the mode? The one that has the highest frequency, so 4, mode's 4. Right, so more than likely we'll give you a table and ask you to find the mean, the mode, and the median, which we'll talk about in a second. Everyone good with that? All right, so our steps are for this were 1, multiply scores by the frequency. So multiply scores by frequency. Add them together to get the summation. Sum the frequency or add the frequency. To get n, and then find your answer. That finds you the mean. Now, you need to know that to be able to do the next one. Everyone, okay? All right, so then from grouped data. Now, I need you to be wary of this. From group data, this is less reliable. It's actually not as accurate. It's actually not reliable, less accurate than using the raw scores. I'll show you why in a second, but it's important that you note that. So if you're using group data, this method gives you a less accurate answer of the mean than if you actually got all the data, all the raw data. But if you only got given a table and you had to find it this way, it's fine. So let's do an example. Has everyone finished writing those steps down if they're writing them down? Yeah? Okay, so this time I've got groups of 0 to 4. Just make sure there's some space on the left-hand side. Oh, actually, no, we'll do it on the right-hand side. Don't worry about it. 0 to 4, 5 to 9, and 10 to 14. And our frequency is 3, 7, and 8. And so you don't know whether the three numbers between 0 and 4 are all fours or are all zeros. And so that's why it's less accurate, because you're not sure what the number is. You just know it's within a range. So I can't multiply the score by the frequency this time, because 0 to 4 isn't a number. What do you think I have to do? Because I've still got to find the sum of the scores, but I don't know what the scores exactly are. What could I assume? Say it again? In the middle. We could assume that they're all in the middle of that. We don't know that, and that's why I said it's less accurate, But what we can do is find the midpoint, just like we did with histograms. And so what we do is we find the midpoint. How do we find the midpoint of 0 and 4? How do we find the middle between 0 and 4? Add them together and divide by 2. Add them together and divide by 2. And so our midpoints would be 2 and then 7 and then 12. You'll notice they'll go up in a regular pattern because the groups always have to be the same size. So we're going to assume that all of them are 2s, and that's why our results aren't as accurate, because if all 3 of those were actually 0s, then our mean's going to be a little bit off. But if we don't know any different, we need to do that. So now I can, instead of finding the frequency times by the score, we're going to go the frequency times by the midpoint. So we've got 6, 49, and 96. So this time our n equals 21. And our sum of our scores is 151. And so to find our mean, we just divide 151 by 21, and our answer is 7.2. Now you will get a number answer. It's not a group answer, it's a number answer. So you just need to know, if you've got group data, you always need to find the midpoint. Now when we use our calculators for this, which I'll show you later on, we use the midpoint in our tables as well. We can't actually put groups into our calculators. So the midpoint's used a lot. You need to get used to it. You can't just go, don't get it and put it aside. It's going to be used in everything. Okay? Is everyone okay with that? All right, one big sentence to put in with big asterisks is the mean can be skewed by, what word did we say before? No, outliers. Okay, so if you have an outlier, the mean is not going to be the best measure of centre. And that question comes up in like every single test. Yes. It depends on what the data is, but usually the median, which we're going to talk about in a second. So I'll give you a couple of examples once I've shown you the median. Okay. So the mean can be skewed by outliers, while the others, the mode and the median, don't. All right, last one, not going to take very long. And we've got a couple of examples to do, which are a bit harder. Everyone okay there? All right, median, what's the median? The middle number when the scores are in order, okay? Okay, so the median is the middle number when the scores are in order. They must be in order, okay? So really easy example, 5, 6, 10, 12, 14. The median is 10, pretty easy. It gets a bit harder when there's an even number of scores. So what about if I had 3, 4, 6, 8, 12, and 13? Good. Now the median, there's only ever one answer. So we actually find the middle, which is this 6 and this 8, but we can't write the median is 6 and 8. We have to find the middle between them, or the mean between them. So how do we find that? You can either just look at 6 and 8 and go, what's in the middle? 7. But a way which works for all of them when you don't know, when it's not even numbers, is that you can go, your median is those two numbers added together and divided by 2. And it's always the two numbers added together divided by 2. equals 7. So for that one, your median is 7. Now, often, for me to find the median, if I've got a list of numbers, I go until I find the median, all right? But sometimes you end up with a table of numbers with like 220 numbers in it, and you need to work out which one's the median score, and that we could find a little bit hard. So the last bit about this for the median is to find the median score. There's a little formula you can remember, okay? And it is the median score number equals the number of scores plus 1 divided by 2. I'll explain what that is in a second. But that's the formula. You add 1 to the number of scores and you divide it by 2. So for example, so if I got given this, how many scores are there? Did you say a lot? 181. All right, so that's a lot of scores to be going like the last one out and then in and then like this on a table. It's really, you're just going to get it wrong. So instead I can go, okay, the median score number, notice it's a score number, it's not what the actual median score is. Median score number is 181 plus 1 divided by 2. So 182 divided by 2 is 91. Now what that means is the median's not 91. The median is the 91st score. So now if we start at the start and go 80, 91 is going to be between 80 and 100, which is that 20. And so therefore I know that the median is actually 4. Which is a lot harder to do if you're trying to work it out from there. So to be able to look at one of these and be able to go, okay, the median score's there. Okay, so the first 80 scores, the next 20 will get it to 100. So the 91st score will be within that group. Everyone okay with that? All right, so an example of one of those questions where it says what would be the best measure of centre is a lot of time in real estate, okay? So you'll notice when they talk about real estate on the news and they talk about house prices in suburbs and things, they never use the mean, they'll only use the median, okay? So they might say the median house price in Hillary's has increased to blah, 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 okay? Why do you think they use the median house price and not the mean house price? Because there might be that house which is worth $30 million somewhere, okay? Pardon? An outlier is like a really big number or a really small number. So all the houses in a suburb might be worth like 400 grand, okay? All these houses here, and then there's this one house out here which is worth like 10 million. If you found the mean house price is going to be up somewhere like 700,000, 800,000, even though, don't pack up yet, we've still got some examples to do. Even though most of the house prices are actually like around the 400. Well, if you go the median, it gets rid of those outliers, the really high and the really low ones, and you just get to in the middle. And so for real estate, that's why they say you'd be better off using the median. So anytime, if you're completely stuck and you don't know which one is the best measure of centre, pick the median if there's an outlier. Okay? If there's not an outlier, then the mean's really good. So it just depends on the data. Any questions? All right, we've still got a couple of examples to do. Sorry, I gave you time to do your investigation, so that's why our notes are going a bit later than usual. What time does Bill go? 1 minute. All right. Okay, I'm going to set you some questions because we don't have a class until Monday. All right, I'm going to set you some questions. We'll do some bigger examples later on. It's exercise 2A. I really need you to practice this though. All right, questions 1. I need you to do this by Monday, okay? I'll just give you 1 to 10 and then we'll do the rest in class on Monday, okay? So questions 1 to 10, I need you to practice that. Sorry, that was a lot of talking. You may pack up and go. Don't forget your calculator charged up and your sheet for tomorrow.